Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our JPS special board meeting. It is 6 o'clock. At this time, we will do the Pledge of Allegiance. Michelle, would you do a roll call for us, please? Thank you.
Mrs. Simonetti? Here. Ms. Acton?
Here.
Mr. Reddy?
Here.
Ms. Sharp?
Here.
Mr. Dobies? And Ms. Hunt?
Here. Thank you, Michelle. At this time, can we have an approval of the agenda? Motion, please.
I move to approve the agenda.
Support.
Thank you, Trustee Cheryl, Trustee Acton. Approval of the agenda. At this time, I would like to, can we have a vote? Any discussion for the agenda? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. The agenda has been approved. Agenda item number 5. This evening, we have with us Mark Palmer from MASB, who has come to facilitate our work session and focus on the search, the superintendent search. And Mark, thank you for being here with us. We look forward to your expertise and giving us the information that we need to make an informed decision. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to you to provide your presentation.
Thank you, President Hunt. Good evening, and thank you for having me back out. I recognize some of you. If you may recall, I did the superintendent evaluation training last, probably August. Kind of August, September, they kind of run together, but it was late last summer, early fall, something like that. So just a little bit about me to give you a little bit of history, and for those that hadn't seen me before, I spent 35 years in education as a teacher, a coach, an administrator at the high school level, and then eventually a superintendent. And I retired a couple of years ago, and now I retired on June 30th, and July 1, I started as a board member for Clinton County RESA. I guess I just couldn't get away from it, and I've also been working for MASB, doing things such as running workshops and doing superintendent searches. So, which is why the reason I am here this evening. And I think you probably already know this from the last meeting with Debbie Stair was here. MASB obviously has been around for a long time, doing searches for over 30 years, I believe it is, placed over 700 superintendents in the state of Michigan. So we've been doing it for a long time and have pretty good, really good success rate in placing superintendents. So I've been working with President Hunt to kind of set up a preliminary timeline. And so we have that. That's the first thing we want to take a look at this evening. And as we go through, if you have any questions, please feel free to interrupt me and ask, because I want to make certain we cover all of that. So you should have a hard copy. It looks, says draft across it. It should say superintendent search timeline. So as I go through the timeline a little bit, I'm going to go over some of the presentation that we normally do during this one, as far as what's my role, what's the board's role, that sort of thing. It's a little bit different because we're focusing on an internal search right now. And we'll talk about some of the things that we do for all of our searches, so that we have everything in line with that. And you'll understand as we go through it. So first, just to review the search process, uh, I'm here to facilitate, and I want to make sure everyone understands that I will help guide you. I will develop the timeline, develop the preliminary posting. Um, I recruit candidates if we were going through. I'm still recruiting candidates, even though it's internal. Recruit the candidates. I will vet out candidates, and also we'll have stakeholder meetings in which I meet with them. We've already started a survey, and we'll talk about that very shortly, of the community, the staff, for anyone to be able to take. And so that's just some of what I do during this process. And then I will help facilitate the interview when we get to that stage. I'll, along with you, we'll develop questions that we'll have for that evening, or whatever date we decide to do it, evening, afternoon, however we decide on that. So, and I want you to know that everything we do will be an open session. It's important for the public. It's important for you and the public to know and have the confidence in it that you're doing your due diligence, that we do everything according to the Open Meetings Act. So we will do all deliberations, all the vetting of the choosing of who's going to be interviewed. Everything will be in open session. And when you decide on the interviews will be open, we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get down to that section. The interviews will be open. The public will have an opportunity to even ask questions during that interview. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. So what I have here is the timeline, and obviously we're on April 2nd already. This is somewhat shortened timeline compared to if we were doing a full-blown search process. Usually it takes 12, 13 weeks to do a full process. I think you're wise to start with the internal, and because we always advise, if you have viable candidates that can be a good superintendent for your school district, you really should look at those people first. There's a couple things there. One, it keeps you from kind of having a reset period. If you have someone that's been here and you feel like the district's going in the right direction, you have someone that can keep it going and knows the system. He hits the ground running, so to speak. Also, if you have internal candidates and you do it internal at the same time as an external search, quite often I would get a call from people and they want to know, is there any internals? Because if there's internals, certain very good candidates may say, I'm not going to risk it because I'm already in a district and I don't want to risk that it looks like I'm looking or something along those lines. I think it's wise to go through the internal, and if you like what you have when you're done with that process, great. If not, we're all set up to continue to the external if need be. So as you can see here, April 2nd again. The second part of what I do to really get this going, and we've already started this process, is the stakeholder input meetings. And so with MASB, we do an anonymous survey, and that was sent out last week, and it's open through April 11th. And that should have gone to the community. I know it's on the website. It's a little pop-up that comes up, which is great. And that asks about 10 questions and really kind of what the community and staff is looking for in the next superintendent. That gives you a good idea of what their feelings are. So we do that. In addition to that, I will have face-to-face meetings. And we've already set that up, a schedule, and that's been sent out. I have a schedule, I believe it's for April 7th and April 9th, in which I come in and I spend about 45 minutes with different groups. We have groups of the admin team. I know we have a time for secondary staff and elementary staff. They're all open to anybody, but it's, as far as staff, the staff meetings, it's just trying to stagger to make sure we hit when you have different times. You usually want to have them right after school's out or shortly thereafter. So we have those set up for next week. We meet with central office support staff. We'll meet with union leadership. And then we have 2 times set up to meet with the community and anyone that wants to come in. Community and or staff can come into those community meetings if it works in their schedule. And we actually have 3 of those set up. Thank you for reminding me of that. They're usually about 45 minutes. I'll stay as long as we need to. But I ask about 4 questions. What are the strengths of the district? What are some challenges that you may be seeing moving forward? What are experiences that you are looking for that your next superintendent may have had in his or her career? And finally, we'll ask what type of characteristics does the next superintendent of Jackson Public Schools need to have to be successful? And so those are basically what I ask in the open sessions. The survey is completely anonymous. Some people feel much more comfortable doing it that way. Others like to come and talk. And so I record what they have. And what I will do is on the 15th, yes, it's the 15th, I'll come with some graphs and things of what the survey results, bring those to you. And I'll get to give you a summary of common themes that I heard when I talked with the staff and community. That'll happen on the 15th. And from there, I'll also come that night with some selection criteria. So out of the results, we usually there are common themes that come up, and I'll put together, it's a different categories of what you may be looking for the next superintendent. And that's also a time you can add to that, whatever you need to do. So you have it's basically summarized, gives you an opportunity to know what everyone else is thinking. And then that's also what we would put out. If we were doing externally, we would put that out to everyone so they could see this is what the Jackson Public Schools Board is looking for. So again, those are set up for next week. We do ask, as far as the community and the stakeholder meetings, that I respectfully ask that board members do not come to those meetings. We want them to be focused on, we want people to focus on what their next superintendent will look like, not come in to just talk about the board or talk about other issues to board members, okay? This is about the superintendent search. So we appreciate that. I understand why you may want to, but we ask that you please do not. So again, that closes on the 11th. We have April 15th. I'll be here with those things. I will also develop some interview questions, and we want to set those up that evening when we come here. So I will have some suggestions, and I think what we could also do is if you know of some in the next couple of weeks here that you would like to ask the next superintendent, if you could get those questions to President Hunt would be outstanding. And then I can kind of see how those are going to fit with questions that I already have. I'll bring a draft, and if we just come in here with a blank slate, we could be here for hours, and we want to come here kind of having an idea. So that will happen on April 15th. Once we approve the preliminary, once you agree to the preliminary posting tonight, I'll have it sent to Ms. Oxley here, and she will get it through the internal postings, how it's done here at Jackson Public Schools, and that'll go out tomorrow. And they'll have until, any interested applicants will have until the 22nd to apply. So we'll talk about that here shortly. Now here's where we get, it's kind of a tight timeline, and it gets a little tricky here. So it closes on the 22nd, and for internals, I will send you electronically the all the materials, the candidate materials on the by the 23rd. Okay, it's possible I get them to the 22nd, but I'm conducting interviews that evening for another school district, so it's likely it won't be until the next morning that I can get that to you. So that's a quick turnaround. And the reason that it's a quick turnaround is, as we talked it through, we wanted to get the internal interviews done by the end of April here. And so if by chance you get multiple candidates from, I mean, Jackson Public Schools, it's a big system. So you could get a lot of candidates. And you may only get one, who knows? But either way, we need to look at having you meet to select who's going to be interviewed. Because if this is not a position where you want to give courtesy interviews. It's, you're looking for someone that can run a large district. And there you have to be you know, I've been in districts where there'll be an administrator that's applied and the board all knows them, and they don't really think that person's ready, but they feel like, well, we deserve it. He or she deserves an interview, and it generally doesn't serve a great purpose for the interviewer or the board or the interviewee. It's just, so I would encourage you to keep that in mind should we need to do that. So, that's a quick turnaround, but I think that would be more than enough time to look at the materials. And I do want to stress that between now and April 22nd, on the posting when we get to it, I'm going to ask that any potential candidates that have questions, that they contact me. They shouldn't be contacting you. So at this time, they should contact me, and it'll be written in the posting. And I think it's wise for you as well, if you have someone that you would like to see apply, let me know and I can talk to them. I can reach out to that person. So it's best to keep separated as much as possible as we're going through the process. So we select them, and this is where I'm going to need your input. I'm available, so we have the interview set for April 28th or 29th. I anticipate we would only need one evening, and they're about 75 minutes long for an interview. So I would like to know if the board has a preference of which day will work. I can't do the 30th. I'm doing some final interviews on that day. And then I believe that many of you will be going at the end of the week up to Mackinac Island to a conference. So that, and I'm always very strict instructions: do not conduct things in district on days when the MASB is having a conference or a workshop. So do we have a preference on what we want to do with those dates?
Trustee Simonetti,
I'm available either.
you're available either day?
I'm available either date too.
I need to check my schedule real quick.
I'm available as well. Mark, with the, you said 75 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
What time would you, I'm thinking if we have multiple candidates, 75 minutes per candidate, what's the earliest you would like to begin those interviews, given multiple candidates will be interviewed?
I would say usually 5 o'clock at the earliest.
Okay,
When they're 75, we try to do 2, because it can get long, but we could do 3 if we needed to. But if we had 3, I'd want to move it up maybe a little bit earlier, but
I'd propose we do 5 o'clock on the 28th and see if we can get them all done on the Monday and then save Tuesday as a backup, maybe. Yeah.
that sounds good.
Yes, I'm available both dates, so 5 seems good. Yep. Okay. 100%.
okay. So
So,
we'll plan for April 28th at 5 o'clock. Most of the time, boards decide that day if they're going to hire one of the candidates or not, or want to enter into contract negotiations. And so I have that date as a possible date to choose, but we always have a backup date just in case some boards want a little more time or want something else checked out. I would venture to say you'll probably know all your candidates, so you may not, I don't think there'll be a whole lot more to check out, but, so we always put an alternate date. Usually, it's like the next time the board meets, which for you isn't until May 20th on that one. And I guess my only hesitation would be, as far as waiting that long, is what if you decide you don't want any of the candidates, you really want to get an external search going as soon as possible.
I think then we would probably decide that night that,
Okay,
if we're either ready to make a decision, not ready, or ready. If we're ready to make a decision, if it's one of those candidates or if it's none of those candidates, then, moving forward with an external search. But
Okay.
I mean, we could also set the date for a subsequent meeting that night before we adjourn.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. We'll just leave it at TBD then.
yes, we'll leave it open.
Okay. And July 1 is the start date. So, okay.
That's correct.
We do have a special meeting on May 6th for our bond presentation that I don't know if that could be a tentative addition to that agenda if we
Okay.
needed, just FYI.
So there'll be some opportunities, but we'll just leave it open and just, perfect. Thank you. Okay. Any questions on the timeline, that sort of thing?
Mark, on the 24th, 6 o'clock?
6 o'clock would be fine.
6 o'clock, okay. Does that work for everyone on the board? The 24th for the board to select the candidates to interview, we have to set a time?
That's another in-person meeting?
April 24.
It, is that a public meeting then on the 24th to select the candidates to interview?
Yes.
Yes.
And it may not be needed, but yes.
Is it possible if we have 3 or under candidates that we proceed with those candidates?
Yes, we can.
Because if we start at 5, we have 3 slots, and we'll know if we have by the 22nd, if we have more than 3, then we will need to meet to narrow it down.
Right.
And if not, then we have at least 3 hours to interview those 3. I would be comfortable with that.
So hearing what Derek, trustee Dobies just said, we'll leave April 24th open based on us getting the candidate information the day before.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
And I'll be in contact with you, Mark, and let you know if anything changes.
Okay.
So the April 24th meeting is to select the candidates to interview, correct?
Well,
The list.
so we're gonna get all of the candidates.
Yep.
Mark will get them all by 4 o'clock on the 22nd.
Okay.
And let President Hunt know if there's more than three, and if there's not, if there's three or less, then we'll just proceed to the 28th
Okay.
with interviewing those three, and if there's more, then we'll meet on the 24th and
Okay.
discuss, I guess. But we'll still get the candidate materials on the 23rd,
Yes.
either
yes.
way. Okay.
And probably would be best if I sent them the materials to you, Michelle, and then you just get them to the board, however you normally distribute. Okay. That way I can,
So just to clarify, the 24th, if needed, is for us to narrow the field, correct?
Yes,
There's no
correct.
interviews?
no. no,
Okay.
No. And we will even ask on that night, what I'll do is I will probably randomly number all the candidates if we have several. I don't anticipate, but you never know. And when we're talking about them in open session, you'll refer to them by the number. And so basically you'll come in and hopefully you'll have your top two or whatever it is that you decide you want to, how you want to do it. So, but discuss them in, because we keep it confidential for the candidates until they accept an interview. So it's a little trickier when you're internal because sometimes people know what you're talking about already, but it's still there may be someone out there that just doesn't want to know if they have their name in there, and who knows? You never
I
know.
might apply just to see what you guys say about me as like candidate 3 is just awful. I would not like to.
Yeah.
Madam President, I have a question.
Yes.
For the interviews on the 28th, and I've done this at the city a couple of times.
Okay.
Is it just by, the order is by lot? And then, because they're all open we would interview these candidates in an open meeting.
Mhm.
The other candidates, we could maybe ask not to be present out of fairness, but they would still be able to, I guess, sit and listen in on the questions and the responses from the other candidates. Is that-
Technically, I guess they could. Usually what we do is I send out like a scheduler and they all receive it at the same time and whoever gets there first picks their slot. And then we'll have a holding room when they come in, work with Michelle probably to have someone that, okay, just put the next interviewee, next person in a secluded room someplace. Yeah, so soundproof room. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that sounds feasible for us to have a holding room.
And, usually, I mean, I've never had anyone say, well, I want to sit in on an interview before my interview, but, never had that happen. I suppose it could. I know, but going through the process myself, there's no way they were going to let me. So I'm certain of that. So, okay, are we all good on the timeline of that part there?
Yes, we are.
Let's take a look at the internal posting that you see here. And I can fix the dates down here now on the bottom. And we should be good there, but this is basically what I'm putting out. And again, it's what I'm going to be asking for and have it all emailed to me is a letter of interest, the resume, their certifications, and 3 letters of recommendation. That's what it boils down to, and then it gives a date there. We don't accept hard copies. And again, I ask them to not to contact board members directly regarding applying for the position. I understand that there could be, in your work, there may be a reason that someone applies, but they're doing their regular work here and they need to talk to you. It's not about the position, it's about whatever their current job is, so. This is what I will put out tomorrow. It's pretty,
Any questions from the board on the internal posting?
okay.
Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome. And finally, you should have a graph here. And what this is we try to do a comparison for each district in regards to superintendent salaries and compensation in districts in the same area, roughly the same size. The information usually comes from two different places. One, the Mackinac Center, who regularly will ask for superintendent contracts. It's kind of hit or miss whether they do or not. And if you notice on here, it may have been a while since they've asked for Jackson Public Schools because the latest one they have evidently is 2019. So it comes from that and somewhat from the transparency page. So I have, I choose the districts and then I send it into the office, and I don't know if they have a program that does it or there's someone else that puts this together for me. So I think what you really want to look at in this is probably the salary, annuity, travel, and other. So those are the ones that are really you have control over. And I don't think I mentioned this earlier, but I do want to mention that at this time you should, if you haven't already, contact your attorney or have President Hunt or someone designated from the board to kind of look over your contract and say, this is what you should have in a superintendent contract at this, in 2025. So I don't know if your Troon is your attorney or not, but that would probably be a good idea.
We have a local, yeah,
Okay.
so I wanted us to have this discussion. I'll be in contact with our attorney.
Okay. It's always, there's things like with the new law, with, for example, the evaluation law, you all have to make sure that you have the on the evaluation part, there's an appeal process in there, should they want it. So that sort of thing, just make sure you're all legal on that. So anyway, as you can see, it was very interesting to me because in Jackson County, because I usually can go to the county and get like schools as far as size wise. And as you're well aware of, in Jackson County, Jackson Public Schools is probably by far the largest district. So it's hard to compare student population wise districts in Jackson County. Although I do have Northwest and Western on here, and although you're at 4,800 students here and they're quite a bit smaller, it still gives you an idea of where their salaries are right now. And if you look over to the right, you can see that that's from the 22 year for Western and 23 from Northwest Community there. Then I try to look at, I thought I need to get somewhat, within 40 miles, I'll say, of try to find a school district that are same size. And so I kind of went down the I-94 corridor. If you go east, you run into, you start getting to schools, they get towards Ann Arbor, they get large in a hurry, and they're quite a bit larger. So that didn't really fit. And so that's why I did go west. And, the closest size-wise is really Battle Creek. And so I thought that would be a good kind of barometer you could use on that. And Okemos is here because mostly it's, just north of here, and it was the closest one that was in as far as student population. I think I do want to point out, it was very well publicized that the superintendent there, I believe it was last year, a year ago, had a very hefty raise, and that's why I'm going to be honest, is his salary is almost an outlier, but we're seeing a lot of salaries going way up for superintendents or moving up. There's no question that, especially if you're bringing in someone from the outside, your next superintendent is going to have a higher salary, a higher compensation package than the current one that you have. That's just the reality of it. Maybe less so if you have an internal person that hasn't been a superintendent, but that's not always necessarily the case. I think it's the reality of where we're at and what happens when, especially when you're looking at someone that they're in charge of, $72 million budget and a large school district, 4,800 students. You can expect that's going to be probably, I know it's going to be higher than what I've written on this paper right here because this is 6 years old. So I apologize for that, but I didn't, I'm not certain, like I said, I don't put that together. I give them the numbers and they send it to me, and I noticed that earlier. So I give this to you so you can start, so you have an idea when you're setting your contract up for your next superintendent, whoever it is. If it turns out that we end up with you end up going externally when it's all said and done, then when we do the posting, we will put on there a salary range, and that's usually what we use this for. But right now, I just wanted to have this ready for you so you'd have something to look at. And if there are other districts you'd want me to find out for you, you can actually go on to their transparency page and get this information. It's all public information. And the reason, really, your pension, that is mandatory by the state and set by whatever the salary is. Insurance, that can be all over the board because it's normally, sometimes your next superintendent may not take your insurance because their spouse has insurance, or they may not have a family or that sort of thing. So that's but that's a set, whatever your district is using for insurance, that's usually a set price. Annuities can vary, and the travel and other section can vary. So like if I'm looking at the Northwest one there and you see the other is at 78,000, well, I believe that superintendent's been there a long time and he has longevity, for example, is written in there. That doesn't go with salary, it comes in as an other. Some districts, they have other responsibilities. Maybe they're doing the business responsibilities. Usually not in districts this size, but smaller ones, they'll do other responsibilities. And so they have a superintendent salary and then another other salary. In some districts, the travel, quite honestly, is just wrapped into their other. It may not be spelled out in their contract. It's quite the same way as travel. Like I know with Western, for example, it says in that person's contract that this is a car allowance, and that's why that shows up. So that's really an informational piece to help you when you go to to do the salary part of it. And there's other pieces that I'm sure will come into play when you do get to that point. So any questions on that I could help with?
I have one question. When you say, look at the transparency page, you're talking each individual school district where we could find the
Yes,
salaries?
yeah. When every school district is required to report any salaries in the district that are over $100,000. And so you go on, they'll have the little pop-up that it'll say transparency, I believe. And then you click on that and it gives you all kinds of information that you can pick up.
So we would work with our attorney to figure out the correct salary, and then how's that process work with the board? Like, what does that look like?
Well,
How do we determine that?
you as a board would ultimately have to approve the whatever contract. So, your attorney really is going to be there to help you make sure all the legal language is there. May or may not help you with the salary part. That's really, ultimately the board decides that. And you will approve whatever salary you come up with in the package when you negotiate with the next superintendent. So ultimately, you have to approve it.
Does it usually start with like our superintendent, his salary now? Would that be a starting point?
That could be.
Could be.
If usually we say, you may offer that to your next superintendent, and they may want to negotiate that.
Is that usual?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
That's what I wanted to know.
yeah,
Yeah, it's not like other, yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Trustee Dobies.
I would love to see Lakeview Public Schools on here. They have about 4,000. Lakeview? Yeah, they're in Calhoun County. They have like 4,000 enrollment. Just as a comparison, I also think it's hard for me to get past citations from the Mackinac Center that has spent a good amount of time and resources in attacking our public education system, teachers and the like. But I can understand the utility of being able to pull some information easily from them. It still irks me. I also think it would be good because presumably this is like a public document. I can gather that since it is an internal process, that those that are applying can probably, if they are looking to be the next superintendent, can probably figure out what our current superintendent makes now with a salary, with other compensation, annuity, so on and so forth. But I think it would be good to just update this anyways, because this makes us look not
Right.
very competitive for as we go forward in the superintendent evaluation process.
Mhm.
So,
Well, and they put that on there. Like I said, this is 2019. And when I did go on to the Mackinac Center, and I do agree with you.
those
Um,
who shall be unnamed.
Yeah. And oddly enough, they used to be really persistent at the Mackinac Center about asking for superintendent contracts. But since the transparency pages came out, it's a requirement. We're seeing less of them. It's kind of hit and miss.
It's optional.
Yeah, it's more
Yes.
of, we used to get them almost yearly. They wanted an update, and then I'd go through towards the end of my tenure as a superintendent. We didn't hear anything from them. So, yeah. So I mean, you do have the salary, the total salary, the Medicare wages are reported, and it's 2023, which is where you should be at your transparency page. So it's just some are broken down more than others. So I don't know what this 223,000, what that includes as far as getting Medicare wages. So yeah, and you can, like I said, you can easily get that from your own district.
Yeah.
And any candidate can get it. So
But just to be clear, we are looking at the three categories of salary, annuity, and travel when it comes to what we, as a board, can control, correct? Or what we
that's
should be looking at
usually that's
comparably?
usually when you're looking at the
Okay.
compensation package, you take salary and annuity, any travel and
Okay.
any other thing there.
Okay.
But salary and annuity, with boards, it's usually, that's sometimes a negotiation, but some superintendents want more in annuity and less in salary, depends on where they're at in life. And And, yeah, it could, very well could be. If they don't need the insurance, then, yeah, they might want, cash in lieu of or something like that. Yeah. Yes, that's quite common. So this is just to give you a starting point and go from there, give you an idea.
I did have a question actually about the posting that I forgot. Is there a job description and qualifications that go out along with the posting?
This is the posting that would go out right
Okay,
here.
so there's not also an attachment that shows
No,
qualifications or,
no,
okay.
no. That's, it's basically they have to have an educational background. They have to be certified, although you can apply when you're not administratively certified. And there's a process to go through to become certified. I would say almost all of our candidates are already certified, a good portion, and sometimes if they're out of state, they're not. They just need to go through a process because they are in a different state, but yeah.
Any other questions from the board? I don't have any more.
Okay, well, thank you. I'm looking forward to working with you on moving this along, and I'll be back in a couple. I'll be here next week. Looking forward to spending a couple days, and then come back with you on April 15th.
Thank you, Mark.
You are
Thank
I'll
you,
be in
Mark.
touch. Thank you.
So I apologize. I do have another question because I thought there was another step here. But do we have to, are we voting on this proposal, like to pay them, to hire them? Is that already done?
We did that last month.
Okay.
Yeah, so last month we voted to give the board guidance to move forward with working with MASB.
Okay. And can I ask one question? I don't know how familiar you are with this proposal, but my question is just about any additional costs beyond this. It's a little vague to me, like what might be added. I'm trying to find it in here. Huh? Yeah, it seemed like there might be some add-ons. So for an internal search, would you expect that we would have any additional costs, I guess is my question.
I wouldn't expect that. When we talk about add-ons, and I don't have it in front of me, but I have one in front of me, but there's a couple different things. One, if it could be, if you were doing an external and you wanted in certain publications, I mean, it would go out to the National Association of Superintendents and like 12 different states with our Revelous system, something like that. So it does go out nationwide, but some like to put it in different other publications.
But no, just currently with our current situation of an internal search, period.
No, the only thing that could come up is if you chose to do, it's called DISC, and I can't remember, I don't know what that stands for. We have two different, if you wanted to do like a personality inventory, if you wanted to, there's one on how basically they make a decision, I believe it make decisions. Those are an extra cost, and I think the costs are probably in there, but I'm not 100%. Yeah, those are, other than that, I don't anticipate, unless something went awry and I've got to make 14 extra trips down here or something like that, but it's, yeah.
Just for clarification, so the contract has been signed with MASB. Okay, just wanted to. Thank you, Mark.
You are welcome. Thank you. And feel free to contact me at any time if it's on the posting there, the email, or you can call me. So appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. At this time, we will move to agenda item number 6, any citizens requesting to address the board after the presentation. All right, moving forward, we will move to ask for a motion to adjourn, item number 7.
I move to adjourn this meeting.
Thank you, trustee Acton.
I support.
Trustee Reddy, thank you for your support. At this time, our special meeting has been adjourned. Thank you.